Okay, we're going to go over how to graph linear functions. Okay, and so when we're graphing linear equations, there's several forms that you can look at, but today we're going to look at specifically two different forms. The first one being slope-intercept form, which we know as y equals mx plus b, or y equals b plus mx. It's slope-intercept form because b represents the y-intercept, or the point on the graph that crosses the y-axis, 0, b, and m, which represents the slope, or the change in y over the change in x. The other form of equation is point slope form, which we know as y equals our slope times x minus x1 plus y1. And in point slope form, m is our slope, or our rate of change, and x1, y1 is going to be our starting point. So let's look at a few examples. The first example, problem number 1, we have f of x equals 1/3 x plus 5. So we can see that this is in slope-intercept form because it looks just like y equals mx plus b. So looking at this form, I know that I am going to start at my y-intercept of 0, 5, because that's my b value. And from my y-intercept, I am going to move a slope of 1/3. That's my change in y over my change in x. So I'm going to plot that y-intercept, 0, 5. And from that point, I'm going to move change in y up 1, change in x over 3. Change in y, change in x. Repeat that a few times, and there is my line. If you want to pause the video, you can, and try number 2. Come back to us when you're ready. So number 2 is also in slope-intercept form. So I am going to start at my y-intercept of 0, -7, because that is my y-intercept. And I am going to move a slope of -2. In other words, -2 over 1. So if you do not see a fraction, that fraction is always going to be over 1. Remember, your slope has to show the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to start at -7 on the y-axis, plot my y-intercept. From my y-intercept, I'm going to move a slope of -2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 over 1. I could also go up 2, but then I have to go over in the negative direction 1. And there is my line. And that is how to graph slope-intercept form. The next examples we're going to look at is point-slope form. So let's look at example number 3. Example number 3 is in point-slope form. I can see right here that my slope is going to be 3, or 3 over 1. My starting point, this is my x1 and this is my y1. And since we can't see it on the video, I'm going to write point slope form right here for us. You see how in this form, it's x minus x1, and then it's plus y1. So since this is a minus right here, I know my x value is 2 and my y value is 5. This is my starting point. So I'm going to come on my graph to 2 and plot that starting point. Notice that's different than the y-intercept. So from my starting point, I'm going to move my slope up 3 over 1. And I can go in the other direction. I can go down 3, but then I would have to go over -1. Make sure my points are all on the same line. And then I can draw my line. Example 4. In example 4, I can see that my slope is -2 over 1. My starting point, now notice how this is a +3 right here? So that means my starting point is actually at -3, and then my y value is -6. So it's opposite that value inside the parentheses, -6. So I'm going to go to -3, -6, plot my point. And then I'm going to move my slope -2 over 1. So down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. 2. Plot a few points. And that is my line. If you want to pause the video, you can and try problem number 5. Come back to us when you're ready. Now in problem number 5, it's a little bit different, but the process is exactly the same. First, I'm going to look for that slope. The slope is the number that's in front of the parentheses. And make sure you look in front of that number to catch the sign. So my slope is -2/3. All right, starting point. Remember, it's x minus x1 and then plus y1. So if I have x minus 2, I'm going to start at an x value of 2. Now, there's no numbers sitting right over here, but if you look over here, there it is. So that's my y1. So my starting point is going to be at 2, 4. I'm going to go ahead and plot my starting point, 2, 4. From my starting point, I'm going to move my slope, -2/3. So I'm going to go down 2 over +3. Or I can go in the other direction, up 2 over +3. And there is my line.